And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Little flip-flop today. Adam Caplan in the Thursday seat. Andrew DeCecco will be on tomorrow's edition of Football at 4. But we got plenty to dive into with Adam right now here on the Sports Bash. As we talked about, can the Eagles make another Super Bowl run? What are some of their team needs? We are 1 week away from the draft, and right now, I guess we'll start off with this question, Adam Caplan. They've lost a ton in free agency. They've brought some pieces in. Can we really say 1 week from the draft that this team today is as good as the team that left the field in February?
Obviously not, Mike, but and this is why we have the draft. I remember someone with Eagles telling me, this is a really funny story, so I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I was complaining about their roster at one point, and someone from the Eagles saw me somewhere and said, "Hey, I heard your show. Remember, the season starts in September. You should tell your listeners that." I'm like, "Yeah, man, I know. I should say that more." Because that goes to your point. No, but the draft is exactly 7 days from now, and if you look at it, okay, if we look at their needs, offensively, they have to address tight end. They don't have to do it in the first round. Whether Goddard's on the roster or not is irrelevant in terms of the future. It has nothing to do with it. It's about what's the future look like at tight end. Mike, this is crazy. They have 7 tight ends on their 90-man roster. 6 of them are up after the season. So the future is bad. They don't have a future at tight end, so they have to figure this out. Now, tight end, defense we'll talk about in a minute, D-tackle, inside backer, corner, and safety. So if they want to make another Super Bowl run, Mike, they're probably going to have to address pretty significantly at least 3 of those positions.
Yeah, let's dive into some of the things here. Adam Caplan, Football at 4 on offense. Some of the team needs. You just kind of hinted at tight end. Don't know what Goddard's future is. Will he be here? Will he be traded? Will he be traded on draft night? Will it be for a pick in this year's draft? Will it be a pick in the future? But whatever it is, it looks like tight end in some capacity is going to have to be addressed.
Yeah, now look, unless something, I'm talking Darius Slay. Unlikely. What does that mean? 3 years ago when they told him he was going to be cut, then they changed their mind 5 hours later and wound up doing an extension and giving him a lot of guaranteed money. Unless something like that happens where ownership and the general manager and everyone associated with this does a 180, he's going to be moved, or they're going to try to move him, and they're not going to extend his contract if he's back. So we'll see what happens here. But yes, tight end, the guys that I like, who at 32 would be potential trade-back options. One would be Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's son. Everyone I've talked to around the NFL draft who works for teams, coaches, and front office people think that he won't get out of the second round. I'll give you a little bit of an update. Jeff Mosher and I are doing a show tomorrow morning, and we're talking about this subject. Now, this is going to be more of a longer talk than you and I are having today, but Mason Taylor is a guy that I think would work well. He could be a 3-down tight end. And a guy I really like, who, by the way, has really good, outstanding athletic testing. The Eagles are one of those teams, Mike, that loves players with the RAS testing. That's the relative athletic score, which it takes into account measurables, height, weight, speed, everything. It takes into like 10 or 12 attributes. Ferguson tested extremely well. He's probably going to go off the board in the 3rd round. So keep an eye on Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson for the Eagles at tight end.
All right. I like that. Obviously, we talked about with Moshe earlier in the week, there's some tight ends early in the first round. I can't imagine the Eagles trade draft capital to move up to go get a tight end in that first round. You'd have to get pretty far to go get Tyler Warren from Penn State. But you mentioned –
that ain't going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. And again, the tight end in this offense is like the 4th option. So it's hard to give up – right? It's hard to give up draft capital to move up for a guy who's not a big part of your offense.
It's a great point, Mike. It's a great point because now we didn't know this last year. Because based on our intel, and it's true because we talked to people close to Kellen Moore, he preferred Kellen Moore before this was a 11 personnel, sometimes 10 personnel, with 10 personnel, 4 receivers, 1 back, no tight end. And because of what happened in 23, the Eagles did not want to be they didn't want to be the passing team. They didn't want to put a lot of pressure on Hurts, and they brought in Barkley. So situations dictated a change. And you're right, Mike. The 3rd receiver in the Eagles offense became irrelevant, to be honest with you. The tight end, Goddard, when he played was good, but he's also important as a blocker. And they just don't have that blocking tight end. So we'll see what happens. But and by the way, right tackle, they don't need to do anything this year. But if they address Lane Johnson's future by drafting his replacement for obviously 3 years down the road, that guy would absolutely have to play guard. They cannot draft a guy who's only going to play right tackle. That will not happen.
Yeah, that's something Motion I talked about yesterday. I asked him, at what point do you draft what you hope is the replacement for Lane Johnson? Is it 2 years out, 3 years out, just best players here, we like him, let's get him so he's here? How do you kind of play that?
Yeah, I would say, Mike, it's because of the Eagles' history at offensive line, you can't rule it out. But their hope is that one of the two competitors for right guard will actually win the job, kind of like Mekhi Becton did, and do a good job where that guy, if they drafted a guy to be Lane's replacement, maybe he could play left tackle too. Maybe he could be a guy that could be a backup left tackle, right tackle, and also be cross-trained at guard. So that's that on offense, Mike. Honestly, they could do absolutely nothing and still be really an outstanding team on offense. But remember now, we don't know about Kevin Patullo as a play caller because he's not called plays before.
That's true as well. What's this offense going to look like? What are they going to value? What are they going to,
Right. Great point.
All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball where there's a lot more team needs draft day here. And obviously the loss of Milton Williams is at the top.
Yeah, and they don't, right now, Mike, they don't really have anyone other than Moro Ojomo, who, by the way, tested well athletically. It's been a really good story development, well ahead of schedule. Right now he'd be starting. But now, again, we have to mention that Vic Fangio, depending on what talent he's given, may change the front a little bit. He may play less five-man fronts, so that could change. So it depends on how many tackles they have. So, yeah, Walter Nolan, we're told they had him in for a visit at some point this offseason. He's a guy that there are off-the-field concerns. I get it. Not a secret around league circles. We've talked to multiple teams that have mentioned it, but he's a really good football player. He's one of the top D tackles for the draft. And then there's Derek Harmon, who athletic testing really good. I'm told he's been given by teams late first, early second round grade. This is a guy to keep an eye on at 32. This guy makes a ton of sense out of Oregon for the Eagles there.
Yeah, Walter Nolan's going to be, I think, Adam, real quick, to me, he's a very interesting guy because he fits the Eagles. He obviously makes a lot of sense. You've seen him in mock drafts going anywhere from like 15 to the second round. Where do the Eagles have value on him if he falls to a certain number? Is he the guy they would target? I think he's one of those players on draft night that a lot of fans and the Eagles themselves will kind of be saying, where is he? Does he keep falling? Does he keep falling? Does he keep falling? Can they sit at 32 and wait for him, or do they feel like, hey, he's at 24, now we got to go make our move?
I never put percentages or anything. It's a waste of time, but we can only go by history. And you also have to go the relative value of this first round. There are very few blue-chip players. This is one of the worst blue-chip player drafts I've seen in many years. Walter Nolan's a blue-chip player, by the way. So if he drops to a certain point and the cost is not prohibitive, you trade up for him. That's what you do. You get a starter for a number of years next to Jalen Carter, and you go. And I'm telling you, this guy, he's got a perfect build. I don't care that he's not really a nose tackle. It means nothing to me. You're taking a phenomenal football player. You just got to be comfortable with him off the field.
All right, let's go to linebacker. Nakobe Dean's injury. What does that mean for Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Because I would imagine Thursday is not in play, but maybe Friday, Saturday.
I would say not Friday. I don't see him going. I don't see them taking a third-round inside backer. They like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I know they are going to add two players by the time training camp starts. Mike, they really, they have no depth right now. They don't have a third or fourth inside backer. So they got to add two by training camp. Now, they don't have to draft one. They could, and I don't recommend this because, that's a great job of scouting by Howie when they signed T.J. Edwards. No one expected anything. He wound up being a starter as an undrafted free agent, over a number of years. So they could wait. They could sign a couple veterans, journeymen. They could do that, like they did last year with Burks. That turned out to be pretty good for them, Mike. But overall, they're light there. We'll talk more about this next week. It's not something that's a priority. In terms of early, it's certainly not, but they have to add two players eventually.
Okay, corner, we know Darius Slay's not here. They have very inexperienced guy in Kaylee Ringo, but they did bring in Adoree Jackson. So what kind of area targets are we looking at corner?
Yeah, Mike. Troy Amos is a guy we know the Eagles like. Troy Amos is from Mississippi. I'm told, for like the club's late one, early two. He's got to keep an eye on. He's got good length, good athletic testing. Tape's good. To me, he's another guy who would probably start year one. Now, see, I want to clear something up because I think people don't. They take what we say sometimes and they don't understand context. Someone asked me on Twitter about this a couple weeks ago, and I'll just explain it here. If they draft a corner here, yes, that means Cooper DeJean would he's not played corner here. He's played nickel. It's different position. That would certainly eliminate him from playing corner as a starter. But it's not like, Mike, they're going to say, you know what? It's not like they wouldn't play him at corner at all. He could be in certain situations. He could play outside, but I don't think they're worried what Cooper DeJean thinks if they draft a corner. Like, Cooper will probably he'll make more money if you play corner. I mean, the corners get paid almost twice. The top corners in the NFL get paid almost double what the best nickels get paid. But I don't think they're going to care about that. They're just going to draft the best player at a position of need for the future and just roll with it. And you can't worry about what the players think. You got to do the best thing for your football team.
Safety, they traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson. If you do that, you must have some thoughts on what you're going to do long-term here. So give us some breakdowns and thoughts there, because I think safety turns into an interesting night now on Thursday and Friday.
It does, Mike. And I got to tell you, it's safety right now for the Eagles. This is another one where, okay, Reed Blankenship's terrific. He's their post safety / free safety. Sidney Brown is a box player. They want to take a look at Lewis Cine in their off-season program, see if he can go forward with them, just being a backup. They're light at that position. They know this. They're going to add one at some point, either in the draft or free, or by training camp and free agency. Tristan McCollum is a force safety. Andre Sam's there, who's just a backup, nothing more than that. He's got to prove they could be on the football team. It's on it now. It's on the 90-man roster. This is a tough one, Mike, because there are some like Xavier Watts is a post safety. He's the best free agent. He's the best free safety for this draft. Well, Reed Blankenship's a free safety, so that'd be duplication. But I don't see this being done early, Mike. To be honest with you, Xavier Watts is the guy that the most productive safety in college football last 2 seasons in terms of forcing turnovers. 13 interceptions in 2 seasons. It's not by luck, by the way. He's a really good football player. He's not a great athlete. But this is where there's a conflict here because he's not a box player. And I'll be interested to see what they do here and how we're going to look more into this. We know the Eagles like him, but he's a guy you probably would trade up for in the second round. I don't see him being there at the 64th pick overall in this draft.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4, the Inside the Birds podcast. 1 week from today, the NFL draft, the Eagles pick at number 32. And obviously so much speculation on Howie because he's moved so much. The other day, I love this as we get you out on this. He gets asked the question about what his weaknesses are. And I love the fact that he can just openly come out and answer that question, right? How many GMs can come out and say, well, I'm not very patient, and that's my weakness? Most people would get killed for that, right? Like, see, he just said what his weakness is. And Howie right now is living on cloud 9. What a world. He could just come out and say, I stink at patience, and everyone just accepts it.
Well, but I would say this, so he did a great job last year of not trading up for Quinyon Mitchell, where he traded up for Cooper DeJean, and he was right to, but there were 3 things with Mitchell before we got out of here, Mike. There was his issue with playing at a smaller school at Toledo, lack of ball production, and he also tied into that. Obviously man coverage, he really didn't play man press coverage, and he didn't catch the ball well. He just was uncomfortable with it off tape, and that's what the Eagles guessed, right, based on their intel, that he'd be there, and I give Howie credit for not trading up. He's right, and you're right, Mike, to bring it up. That was an issue for him over the years, inconsistent with his patience. But why is he arguably the NFL's best general manager? Because he's learned from his mistakes. Every general manager, by the way, the best ones, you can go back 50 years, have all made mistakes. They're human beings. They're going to make mistakes, but Howie's got it going on right now, and there's a reason why they've been in the Super Bowl twice out of the last 3 years, and they've won one, and Howie's now a 2-time Super Bowl champion as a general manager. It's pretty important.
All right, Adam Caplan, Football at 4 here from the Inside the Birds podcast, 1 week from the draft, and make sure you check out the Inside the Birds podcast for all of their draft coverage, and, of course, right here on Football at 4. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.